Welcome to TEDCO's Entrepreneur Expo in downtown Baltimore, where the region's top business owners, innovators, and investors have gathered to network, grow, and celebrate the vibrant entrepreneurial ecosystem here in Maryland. I'm Chris Frew with BioBuzz Networks, and I'm honored to be here today with Jon Rowley, founder and chief product officer at RoosterBio. Jon, welcome.
Thanks, Chris. Happy to be here. Thanks for the invite.
My pleasure. Why don't we start off, just tell us a little bit about RoosterBio and the work you're doing.
Yeah, sure. RoosterBio was founded, with the kind of goal of radically simplifying the incorporation of human stem cells into therapeutic product development, right? So everything about that, I'd spent about 15 years in the industry, and it's really hard to get a product concept into first in human trials. And through the years, I had, figured out a few hacks to help along the way. And I brought all those together with RoosterBio to work on simplifying it for therapeutic companies.
So we've heard a lot about the stem cell industry in Maryland. How would you describe the stem cell field in Maryland, the ecosystem here?
The ecosystem is pretty strong, right? One, you've got a good educational system. You got Hopkins, you got the University of Maryland system, both in Baltimore and in College Park, and but then because of then the NIH and the different government agencies, I would say I kind of feel that industrial cell culture has kind of grown up around the 270 corridor, right? And kind of the industrialization of cells and offering cells to researchers, right, in order to so they could do their research easier. And then that has turned into more of a, now these cells are being offered so that people can do therapeutic development faster. Coupled then with the funding environment, Maryland Stem Cell Foundation is one of the few existing funding agencies that are state sponsored that actually specifically fund the stem cell area, and you take all that together and it's made a really rich ecosystem, really strong workforce, and so it's a great place to do this as a company.
Yeah, the workforce is key. The history is key. You mentioned some of the history, like cell culture was born here in the region. In fact, I think the first approved stem cell therapy, FDA approved therapy, was Osiris Therapeutics. I think was here, a Maryland company, and
started out right here in Baltimore. That product still yet to get FDA approval, but that product has been on the market for several years in other jurisdictions.
So there's a long history. I know a lot of that product was made in Lonza,
right,
in Walkersville.
Yeah.
So there is this rich history. Tell us a little bit about, like you mentioned, you learned some hacks, but what's the founding story? Where did really this idea come from? And if you could take that into where you are today, where the company's become today.
So it can be a long story, but but I'm a technical person, but I'm a business model junkie, right? So I'm always thinking about business models. How do you take A and B, put them together and create C that could then, be sold to somebody at for enough that you then have profit left over at the end of the day, right? It's kind of a puzzle to put together, and so I had often been thinking about the cell and media business model, which again was pioneered in the Frederick area by two early companies, Clinetics and Poetics, which they got bought up by Cambrex, put in Walkersville, that Lonza eventually came and acquired. And I liked that model like 10 years before I ever came to the area, but I could never figure out how to make enough money to turn it into a growth business, right? You can make a decent business, but it's a kind of a cottage industry, and then I got into cell manufacturing. I really wanted to figure out how to take living cells and get them into clinical development. So I was at a therapeutic company for a while. After there, I came to Lonza to head up their R&D and then eventually the process development business. And then I was in the business and I saw the cells and media. And I was excited at first because I needed those cells to do research on scalable cell manufacturing, but none of the products were relevant because they were made for people that did experiments in 24-well plates, the basic research scale, and I needed a much larger scale. I needed to make billions of cells, not millions, right? So I was 3 logs more. And then as I was looking for my next adventure, I realized that the cell and media business that I had been interested in, that I couldn't figure out how to make enough money in, selling to researchers, you could actually apply that to therapeutic development and actually create a growth business around that and get to tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue eventually. And so I left Lonza, worked on a business model, and then within about a year, launched RoosterBio to test out this new concept of having off-the-shelf cellular raw materials, not just for research, but actually specifically to do product development and clinical translation, and having off-the-shelf GMP materials with then the media, which then ties directly into manufacturing. And got lucky enough to have a lot of very talented scientists and engineers help me build that business along the way, and that's kind of is how it all kind of came together.
And where are you today? So tell me, what stage is Rooster's?
We're a small company, so it's been 11 years. We're just under 50 people. We should be north of 50 people next year. We've done a few rounds of funding. We're have in 2024 turned the corner into profitability. Not by much, but we're no longer, cash is no longer going down in the bank account, so that's important. And now we're shipping cells around the world. Okay, so we've succeeded at the mission of radically simplifying product development and helping people get into clinical development much faster. And now we have like several companies that are using our products in their therapeutic products and treating patients for the last several years. And we are selling products and doing this all around the world, right? So from Korea to Japan to Europe, Australia, and so we have this commercial operation and a supply chain where we can get cells and media all over the world. And now that we're profitable and we've proven that there's a solid business here, as our customers are working their way through clinical development, we're now expanding into other cell types that are kind of widely used by lots of different people. And so we're expanding our business model into parallel technologies.
You mentioned that you're in Frederick now. You've talked a little bit about the stem cell field in Maryland. Theradaptive is another Frederick company in the stem cell area. We talked to them earlier. And the Stem Cell Research Fund and TEDCO have come up a lot. Like how important has TEDCO been to fostering this ecosystem, especially in the stem cell space here in Maryland?
They've been very, very important. So TEDCO early on, just as a small biotech company, when we were just 5 people, right, actually gave us a couple of small but impactful grants for rural startup companies. Since Frederick is still considered I believe it's still considered the rural, but definitely 10 years ago it was. And they funded the expansion of our manufacturing, so helping us get some more cell culture equipment, and that was super impactful because that was actually before we had any venture capital funding, and so $20,000 went a long way, and that was directly from TEDCO. And we had a local TEDCO champion who would really help us find ways for that TEDCO could help us. And then at some point in the 2010s, the state of Maryland created the Maryland Stem Cell Research Foundation, which funded stem cell research, but not just research, but also product development and clinical translation. And so that we've gotten 4 of those grants over the years. In the early days, most of the money went to the academic institutions because it was really focused on research, but they really wanted to figure out how do we make part of this money appropriate for product development and commercialization. And they found their path, and so now there's specific product development grants and specific clinical trial grants, and now even specific GMP manufacturing grants. And so we've gotten 3 of the product development grants and 1 of the manufacturing grants, and that has helped us fund some of the R&D specifically to launch products. And so we've launched 3 or 4 different products that have been essentially mostly funded by the Maryland Stem Cell Research Foundation over the last, say, 6 or 7 years.
In companies that are so technology intensive and take such amount of capital and time to launch, grant programs and ecosystems like this are critical. And it seems like TEDCO has been a big part of some of your inflection points as a company.
Yes, for sure.
We're here today at the TEDCO Expo. You're a speaker, panelist here. How important are these events for the ecosystem, for the community kind of come together?
Yeah, I mean, I think having a place for the Maryland companies to network and interact with one another is super critical. You need that critical mass. You need people talking to each other and not just isolating in their own company, and that the innovation happens when you get interactions, right? And so these types of events are super important.
That's great. Well, congratulations on everything, Jon. The past 11 years, you've built a great company, and it sounds like some exciting things are coming for you.
Thank you, Chris, and congratulations to you. You've been building BioBuzz for about the same amount of time, and it's been impressive to see all the growth that you've had over the years.
Yeah, I appreciate that. We're excited about the future and growing with companies like Rooster and yourself, and these events like today and getting to talk to so many entrepreneurs is really it gives us a lot of energy, and I know a lot of people are here. Same thing, kind of leaving with a lot of energy on how much of opportunity and resources at TEDCO and other companies that are out there to help companies like Rooster grow and others. So
yeah, it's exciting to see all the exciting stuff happen in Maryland.
Yeah, well, thank you for your time today. My name is Chris Frew with BioBuzz Networks, and we're here today at the TEDCO Expo in Baltimore. Thank you.